I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have the prayer and the pledge by Council Member Marlon Lewis.
Father God, we come in the name of Jesus just to say thank you, Lord God, for allowing us to bask in your glory one more day, Lord God. Lord God, we ask you to forgive us of all our sins, Lord God, of omission and commission, Lord God. Lord God, we come praying for this council, Lord God, for their service, Lord God, and their courage to lead in this fine city, Lord God. Lord God, we come asking that your will be done tonight, Lord God. After the polls are closed, Lord God, that you would have the right ordinances, right priorities, and the right privileges granted to those who need it, Lord God. We ask all these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Dan Dahl.
Here.
Councilmember Natalie Lopez. Present. Councilmember Marlon Lewis.
here.
Councilmember David Broussard.
Here.
Councilmember Deidre Ledbetter.
Here.
Councilmember Sherry Guidry.
Present.
Councilmember Dustin Swear.
Here.
Thank you. Now we move to public comment. You have to fill out a public comment card. We only speak on items that are on the agenda, no back and forth. You have 3 minutes, and at this time I remind everybody to please silence their cell phones. So do we have every comment card? Looks like we do. Madam Clerk?
Michael Bell with District 4 to discuss agenda item number 9C.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to come here.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'm here I live on Field Street at 513 Field Street, and in an area that has, in the past, that has been kind of left behind. It's not because of people, it's just because people wasn't aware of the things that goes on. I live across the street. Across the street we have a serious problem. On the corner of Hopkins and Field, there's a tire place that sell used tires. But they don't take the old tires that the customers leave behind because of lack of previous administration. There's an empty lot, and people feel privileged just to drop tires in that area, which is so unfair to the taxpayers in that area, mayor and other people, not your administration. And I'm speaking because I love the city that I live in. I choose to live here. I can live other places, but I refuse to leave because I feel I have a responsibility to my grandchildren and the people that makes it right. And that's one of the reasons why we can't have any economic growth in the West End. And I tell people, whoever is listening, the West End is an economic area for boom. You have no large grocery stores. Any business that chooses to come into the West End is going to be prosperous. But it's not going to be that way if we keep using it as a dump. And it's an eyesore. I've picked up about 25 tires and I put it in my backyard. But I had the good fortune in running into good people that take their old cars and stuff to Baton Rouge, and they took those tires to Baton Rouge where they can recycle them and make them reusable again. So I'm just saying that we need to truly wake up, like I've always said. If we find a spot on our body that's cancerous, and we are too silly simply because we in love with that part of that area of our body and we ignore it, it's going to be like a cancer. You know, and I see it every day, and I want to stay here. We have people that are leaving simply because of that reason, and I want people to know that. The West End is a prosperous area, and I ask that, please, the councilmen all get together and thrive and promote that area because it's a thriving area. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Rene Simon to discuss agenda item number 9A.
Mayor, Council, thank y'all for allowing us to be here. The Square One Levee District, I think as you know, Square One Levee and Drainage District was formed 2015 by an act of the Louisiana legislature passed by Representative Taylor Barra. We have now held our third meeting. Councilwoman Natalie Lopez was at our last meeting, which was last Thursday, November 1st. We are moving forward with our levy district. We are just getting organized. But we have a lot of positive energy. We had great attendance at our last meeting. We had about 10 people show up. Mr. Perry Segura came and was at the meeting. We discussed some of the items that he's planning on doing, working towards bettering the drainage levy that protects us. We would certainly like for the city council and the city itself to consider how they can partner with us to improve the drainage in Squirrel Run. We think we have a wonderful neighborhood. We think we have a wonderful place to raise family, wonderful place to play golf, and we certainly need your support and your efforts to continue to make Squirrel Run one of the best places to live in the city of New Iberia. And as the gentleman just said, we choose to live in New Iberia. We choose to make it a better place, and we certainly want to do our part, and I think our neighborhood wants to do our part, but we need you to help help with our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, item 2.
Acceptance of the minutes. Acceptance of the minutes of the October 16th, 2018 meeting as published on October 25th, 2018.
Do I have a motion? Motion by
Second.
Councilman Lewis, second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion on that? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Madam Clerk, 2B.
Acceptance of the minutes of the special meeting on October 30th, 2018 as published on November 5th, 2018.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilman Lewis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Swear. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. Item 3, persons to address the council. We have none. Madam Clerk, item 4.
Resolutions. Resolution in support of the U.S. Department of the Interior Fish and Wildlife Service Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program, Boated Infrastructure Grant Program Tier 1 Grant, Funded Opportunity Number F178S00214 for the City of New Iberia boat slips.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Councilwoman Guidry, second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion on this item? And just to clarify before you vote, this is the state asked us to do this. We'll be getting our award letter after we do this. This is the grant that we've already obtained, but it was a formality to go through this first. So when people with the goal make the rules, we just do what they say. Seeing no questions, please vote your machines. Thank you all very much. 4B.
Resolution awarding an annual bid for sewage pumps as follows. Cornell Pumps to Power Specialties LLC, Fairbanks Morse Pumps to Fluid Process, Flight Pumps to Gulf States Engineering, Goes Pumps, no award. Bid was rejected since vendor substitution did not satisfy bid specifications. Hydromatic Pumps to Power Specialties LLC and Fluid Process, and Zoller Pumps to Power Specialties LLC.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Broussard and a second by Councilwoman Guidry. Do we have any discussion on these bids?
Mayor, can I ask,
Vince Palumbo?
yeah, is he here?
Sure. Mr. Palumbo?
I didn't see him in the back.
Come on up. Good evening.
Hey, Vince, the engineer, does he spec out the pumps and decides who meets the specs or not?
Me, yes.
Yeah, I knew you're
Our
engineer.
engineer.
You're engineer, okay.
Yes.
But it seems that a lot of them had difficulties meeting the specs.
Correct.
So what does that mean? That means we are changing to different pumps, or that's just what we have in now that we're trying to replace is, that's the kind we have?
That's every pump we have in our system, right? And so we're saying, look, we want to try to replace what we have so we don't get a mishmash of different pumps, but if there is a pump that substitutes, that's a drop-in replacement, and it meets our spec, by all means, it's a lower price, we'll accept it. But it's a prior approval You
It
need
is
to get the,
approved.
yes, you need to get the information to me 7 days in advance of bid opening with enough information for me to approve it as a substitute.
Okay. Because, on the bid proposal, it wasn't highlighted of who was low,
Okay.
so I didn't,
I understand.
normally it's highlighted.
No, it should have been.
If you have a black and white copy.
Yeah.
Because normally it is.
Yeah,
It is. I know
But that-
mine is.
but, so you're the one that approves the,
Substitutes,
specs,
correct.
and it has to be prior approval?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay,
That's
thank
our
you.
in-house quality control.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah, see, maybe you got one that wasn't, sorry. Is there any further discussion? Sorry. Any further discussion on this item? I'll ask you to please vote your machines. Thank you. And if you need a highlighted copy, I can get you one.
I'm fine.
All right, thank you. Item 4C.
Resolution authorizing the City of New Iberia to enter into a detention agreement with Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government for the Lafayette Parish Juvenile Detention Home and authorizing the mayor to execute this agreement and any other required documentation in connection therewith.
Do I have a motion?
Motion,
Motion by, who made the motion?
Mr. Lewis.
Councilman Lewis and Councilwoman Guidry. Do we have any discussion on this item?
I just got,
Yes, ma'am.
question, Mayor. I know the last time we spoke of, juvenile detention, I think we spoke of, was it Bunkie was the only one?
Terrebonne
Yeah,
Parish.
Terrebonne
We
Parish
have a
or
contract with
something like that.
Terrebonne,
Right.
and now we will have a contract with Lafayette. We've actually utilized Lafayette,
Right.
but we didn't have a contract. So this was, the better way to handle our business. So we're doing a contract with them. It's $250 a day,
Same price.
pretty much the same price, and they are all the same price. And it's a matter of trying to make these arrangements with as many as we can. There are few and far between in the state, but that way when we get a juvenile that needs to be housed, we want to have some choices, because if not, they're going to end up on house arrest, and sometimes they don't have a house to go to, or the better thing is to incarcerate them.
And the other question I had, is Lafayette, do they keep them like at a shorter time than the rest of these detention centers?
They keep them, but all of these detention centers have the policy that if one of their juveniles of their parish comes up, they throw ours out. So we have actually had to release some juveniles that we would not have wanted them to be back on the street because of their behavior, or that we sent them to house arrest, and we were very concerned about what kind of house arrest they would really be under. But they do have the right in those agreements to say, one of our children needs to be housed there and not yours,
Even with a standing contract?
even with a contract. That's why we are seeking out as many as we can.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman
Oh,
Swear.
I see where it doesn't include any additional medical expenses.
Correct.
So, does that have to be paid, does medical expenses have to be paid in that same 30 days?
We pay when it's something that while they're under our care, there are times that we pay. And the whole thing changes once the DA accepts the charges, so then the nickel switches over to them and off of us. But there are some instances where we would have to probably pay some medical.
Okay.
Mayor, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Are we responsible for delivering them and picking them up if they're released?
Yes, we have to get them back. We have 2 transport officers. We have a transport van. If it's bring them to Terrebonne or bring them to North Louisiana, wherever, we have to bring them, deliver those prisoners, and pick them back up.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
To Ms. Guidry's point about, you said that in the event that one of our juveniles go to one of the facilities that we partner with, and that particular municipality has a juvenile that needs to go in there, then ours get kicked out, right?
Yes.
So what are we doing in lieu of that, or in return for that? What do we do? What is our plan so far?
We bring them back here, and they actually can get released. They go back to the judge, they get released, they end up in home arrest. Some of these are violent criminals. We're not playing around. This is not something that, I committed a petty crime. To spend $250 a day on a prisoner is a lot of money. At the jail, an adult costs us $30 a day. So it's a huge expense. But these are people, young adults, juveniles, that need to be made an example of, that have done some, adult-type crimes, violent crimes. But if they are released, we get them back, and all the judge can do is we try to bounce them to another facility if we can, If we can't find another facility, they could well end up, you know, at home or even worse, back on the streets.
Right, and that's the problem. I'm saying that we need to be looking as a council and as a community for some pathway to get these young men some rehab within our community, because we've had some issues, as we know. Things have quieted down since we got our police department in full effect. But I don't want to be the laughing stock that we putting people up in facilities, violent offenders. I personally don't think there's such a thing as a violent juvenile offender unless he's mentally ill. With some proper training and rehab.
When you shoot somebody, they're pretty violent.
Well, I mean, with proper training and rehab, and you know, we can probably rehabilitate those kids right here at home. Because you'll be surprised how many of those kids have relatives that's out here in our community doing things, but they're forgetting about their own babies. And that's why I'm making these points, that we need to, as a community, get involved with that process. That's what I'm getting at. So I understand what you're saying and what they're saying, but we need to get involved at a level that, because it's prevention, you know.
I'll take all the help I can get any way I can get it.
I will
and this is a statewide problem. This is not just us. But there's a facility, I think, in St. Martin Parish that's completely finished, but it's boarded up. Okay. There are, you know, many areas. It is very hard to find juvenile facilities. So it's an issue across our state. I hear about it all the time. I'll take any help I can get.
Right. Sometimes when you plant a little seed, it'll grow into something bigger than, you know.
Yes, sir.
It started as.
Thank you.
One last
yes, ma'am.
So do we get like a credit or a rebate or something back if, like you said, if one of theirs need to go in and ours need to?
We pay per day. We pay per day.
Right. 30-day billing cycle.
Right, but it's a 30-day billing cycle, but they only state 3 days. We only pay for the 3 days.
Oh, okay. So
we don't pay. We're not committed to pay for 30 days.
Okay.
They bill us every 30 days, but for it's straight up, you know, day at a time.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Ask you to please vote your machines. Thank y'all. I'll get it done. Madam Clerk, item 5.
Public hearings. A, public hearing on the introduction of an ordinance altering the boundaries of New Iberia Highway 14 Economic Development District Number 1 and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing.
I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Broussard has the first and Councilwoman Guidry has the second. Is there any public comment on item 5? Hearing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Broussard and Councilwoman Guidry. We move on to item 5B.
Public hearing on introduction of an ordinance revoking a parcel shown as existing driveway adjoining property owned by McDonald's Corporation and identified on plat entitled Parcels Considered Excessive Property. Declaration of abandonment, quitclaim and release by the Department of Transportation and Development. Right-of-way map, state project number 823-46-0004, FAP number STP 2300, 518 Lewis Street improvements, LA 87 Spur, Iberia Parish, LA 87 Spur by J. Weston Mott, PLS, dated January 24th, 2018, contingent upon the property receiving the area acknowledged in a recorded document that the area is acquired subject to an existing public or private utility servitudes or utility improvements, whether those are reflected in recorded documents or not, and whether those are apparent or not, be required for revocation of immovable property in the referenced plat.
I need a motion to open this public hearing.
Motion to open.
Motion by Councilwoman Ledbetter. I need a second.
Second.
Councilman Lewis. Is there anyone here to comment on item 5B? Seeing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion by Councilwoman Ledbetter.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lewis. Thank you all very much. Madam Clerk, item 6.
Adoption of ordinances. A, ordinance altering the boundaries of New Iberia Highway 14 Economic Development District Number 1 and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Dahl. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Swear. We have our bonding attorney and annexation and TIF and all kind of other stuff attorney here, Mr. Jason Akers. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason Akers with Foley and Udell. I dispute the annexation aspect
Well,
of that.
yeah, maybe not annexation. All right, all right. I'll hit you on that later.
I would also like recognition that the title of my ordinance is significantly less than the title of Ordinance 6B. So thank you. If that could be reflected in the minutes. This is merely a companion that is a procedural requirement before this council, acting as the governing authority of Highway 14 Economic Development District Number 1, can consider the ordinance that's going to be before that board at that meeting, which follows this meeting. And if you're following along with me, the reason for this is because for that ordinance to be considered, there has to be a determination by the registrar of voters that there are no registered voters living within the district. And when the registrar actually surveyed and looked at her records, she found voters living within the original boundaries of the district, and they were registered at Motel 8 and Holiday Inn. And you may ask yourself how that becomes a permanent residence for someone sufficient for them to register to vote, and the answer is nobody really knows. And they didn't register through her office, they registered through apparently the Office of Motor Vehicles. So that is something that's being pursued, but in the meantime it was decided as best to move forward with the ordinance as presented and to remove those parcels from the district so that the registrar could give the certification that was required. There will be more discussion, I'm sure, at the following meeting, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this particular action now. So.
Any questions? Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank y'all. Item 6B.
Adoption of ordinance revoking a parcel shown as existing driveway adjoining property owned by McDonald's Corporation and identified on plat entitled parcels considered excessive property, declaration of abandonment, quitclaim, and release by the Department of Transportation and Development. Right-of-way map, state project number 823-46-0004, FAP number STP-2300, 518 Lewis Street improvements, Iberia Parish, LA 87 Spur by Weston Mott PLS, dated January 24th, 2018. Contingent upon the property receiving the area acknowledged in a recorded document that the area is acquired subject to an existing public or private utility servitudes or utility improvements, whether those are reflected in recorded documents or not, and whether those are apparent or not, be required for revocation of immovable property in the referenced area.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Guidry. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item 7.
Introduction of ordinances and set for public hearing on November 20th, 2018. A. Introduction of an ordinance adopting Chapter 26, Environment, Article 3, Stormwater Pollution Prevention of the Code of Ordinances relating to the requirements of Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality MS4 permits.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Broussard. Do we have any discussion on this item?
Mayor, if you would just
Yes.
give a brief explanation about this.
Yes, ma'am.
I kind of understand it already, but just for viewing audiences later.
This is a mandate that has come down from the state that we adopt this ordinance in conjunction with the parish and a portion of Loreauville. And the parish is actually the lead on this. About a year ago, when we first got in office, Maxine and I, our clerk, wrote the ordinance, and then it went around and has been back and forth between the parish and the city and the attorneys and the engineers. And basically it's a mandate, but it comes with no money. We are mandated by the state to take action. Costly things like an all-in water separator at Public Works. Small items like every dumpster in the city, we're working on that now, that the city rents or leases has to be recorded and has to have a plug in the bottom of it because the rainwater could contaminate something by running through the dumpster. It will affect some construction projects on retention ponds and hay bales and silt fences. It's basically many drainage items that As a contractor, I can tell you I work all over Acadiana that many other parishes already have in place. But we are mandated by the state to do this. So that's what this ordinance is all about. It's all about stormwater pollution prevention. So you can look at it. That's why you pack it so thick tonight. It is not. It is a lengthy document, but that's in the nutshell. That's what it is. The state has mandated us to do it. There are fines if we don't do it. We have to meet deadlines. We have hired Bayrod and Habits as our engineer who is representing us on this project, and they are walking us through this whole process, if you will. And it's caused a lot of work. There is talk with the parish president and myself of hiring a person that we would share jointly to administer this, because it's going to be so much additional work. It will fall on many of our department heads as well to pick up the pieces and do parts of this. But because the reporting is so intense, because it's a state, it's red tape, we are going to probably have to hire at least a part-time person that we are thinking about splitting between the parish and the city. Just one out of, it would be a cost savings. And number two, since the parish is the lead on this, we report to the parish and we turn in reports to the state, but we go through the parish. So that's something that we're trying to do to be a cost savings, since this was mandated with no funding. Bless you. Any other questions? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. 7B.
Introduction of an ordinance revising Chapter 62, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, Park and Recreation Commission.
Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Lewis and a second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. Item 7C.
Introduction of an ordinance adopting Chapter 86, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 6, Railroad Devices, Section 86-233, Section 86-234, and Section 86-235.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry, second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion on this item?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On the devices, when it's unlawful to use these devices on private property without permission or public property, what do we do about the fines? Is that, I mean,
What's that?
I don't know, I didn't find it. Do they have about the fines if you get caught doing it on public or private property?
It's going to be a police issue,
I
but
don't remember what the particular fine is, but we have a fine in the beginning of the code of ordinances
Right.
that
That
applies
applies to
unless
everything.
there's something specific
Right.
that says otherwise.
And those fines, because I think coming up on the agenda, Mr. Broussard got something about the tires and that.
yes.
But I think most of these things, when it's unlawful to do it, they do it, the fines are not stiff enough for them not to do it again. Now, I didn't know if we address these differently, or is just a blanket thing that we do
It goes
across.
back to that fine that we've stated at the beginning. I'm not saying we can't
Yeah.
revisit that,
Right.
because we are revisiting many, many ordinances, but whatever that normal fine is, it's not a lot of money. You're right.
But we can readdress that.
We could, certainly.
At one point.
That might be something for.
For Deidre's committee
to
that
talk
does a
about,
great
right.
job to talk about.
Yeah. No, we,
Okay.
we have a default provision in the beginning.
Right.
It says unless we say otherwise, this is the penalty.
Right.
So we might want to look at that.
Yeah, it says up to a certain amount.
I'm
Correct.
pretty, I
Yes.
could be wrong,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure it's misdemeanor standard, which is up to 506 or 6 months in jail or both. And we don't,
That's-
I mean, outside of domestic abuse and OWI and possession of marijuana, nothing else is enhanceable, meaning if you do it 1, 2, 3, 4 times,
It's still the max.
it's still, that is
Still
still
the
the max. The max doesn't increase. It's not an enhanceable crime.
But that's a pretty good fine for.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think the judge would give 500 on the first time, but the judge can use their discretion every time. They can go from 100 to 200, from 25 to 50,
Mhm.
whatever they want. But I mean, all we have is misdemeanor court, so it can't be
Yeah.
above
That's dangerous.
that.
But I want to thank Deidre because they did a great job simplifying some of these things and adding what we needed. I know you put a lot of work and effort into it.
To our
And the lawyer.
attorney, too.
Yeah.
We have a really good committee.
We have a good committee, that we do, And this is good because we're cutting out a lot of red tape. We got a long way to go. That ordinance book is very thick, but as we take them one at a time and as we spend our time here, I had to do a new one today. And I was like, oh, we cutting this. I mean, the red tape is just too much. So I think this is a great outlet to reduce our ordinances and reduce some of these ridiculous steps.
And that's a mark that you're gonna leave forever. You know, I mean, it's little things like that. Like when you're in a courtroom and people commit crimes and there's things that there isn't a crime for, and you have to let them off on something because there isn't a direct rule about it. You know, those are things that are. I mean, they're gonna stay in place for a long time. It's important.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Councilwoman Ledbetter, we'll load you up again. Now we move on to item 8. Madam Clerk.
Financial reports. Presentation by Kevin Zarang, City Treasurer, of the November 2017 through August 2018 budget to actual comparisons.
Hello, Council.
Good evening.
All the enthusiasm. I know y'all been waiting for this. All right, we're going to start off with the. We're doing 2 months tonight. We're going to start off with the August, and unless y'all have objections, we're going to just do them in summary. Okay. So we'll start off. As of the end of August, we were 10 months into the budget. So at 10 months, we should be at 83.3% of our budget. General fund budgeted $18.8 million. We came in at 15.1, which rounds out to 81% revenue. For expenses, we were budgeted 19.1. We came in at 15.7, which rounds out to 82%. So we're pretty close to where we should be. We're actually below on our expenses. Parks and Recreation revenue budgeted 1.3. We came in at 1.2. We're actually at 97% of our budget on the revenue. And that was mainly because we brought in ad valorem taxes better than what we were expecting. Parks and Rec for the expenses, 1.2 million. We came in at 1.0. We're at 81.4. So they were actually higher than budgeted on their revenue and below on their expenses at this point. Public Works budgeted at 2.8 on revenue. They came in at 2.2. So revenue, they're at 78.7. Expenses 2.8, and actual was 2.1. So they're at 72.8%. So even though they're lower on their revenue, they're also lower on their expenses. Sales tax fund budgeted 10.1 million, came in at 8.7. So we are at 86.15 of our revenue. Disbursements or expenses 10.1. We're actually at that point had done 8.2. So we had dispersed 81.4% of the sales tax that we had budgeted. Garbage fund revenue at 4.5. We came in at 3.8. We were at 83.94. Expenses 4.6. Actuals 3.8. We're at 83.18. Section 8 vouchers. Revenue at 1.2. Actual is 1.1. We're at 83.4% of our revenue. Expenses 1.3 million. Actual is 1.1 million. We're at 86% of our disbursements. Wastewater revenue was budgeted at 5.4. We came in at 4.3. Revenue, we're at 79.4%. Expenses 4.9. Actual was 4.0. So we were at 81.8% of our expenses. Do we have any questions at this point? No. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to September. General fund. Sorry, let's take a step back. Through September, we're 11 months into our budget. At that point, we should be at 91.7. General fund revenue was 8.4 million budgeted. We were at 16.2. So revenue-wise, we were at 86.1% of the revenue. And for expenses, 19.1. Actual was 17.0. we're at 88.94. So even though we were below on our revenue, we were able to control our expenses and have that coincide. Parks and Recreation, revenue at 1.3. We came in at 1.3, so we're at 98.19% of our revenue. Expenses, 1.2. Actual was 1.1. We're at 87.9% of our expenses. Public Works, revenue at 2.8 budgeted. Actual is 2.3, so we're at 84% of the revenue. Expenses, 2.8. Actual was 2.3. So there we were below on our revenue, but we were able to control our expenses so that we could keep that down as a percentage also. Sales tax fund, 10.1 budgeted. Actual is 9.6. So we're at 95.3% of the revenue. Disbursements, 10.1. Actual was 9.1. So we're at 90.5% of our disbursements. Garbage fund, revenue 4.5, disbursements 4.2. We're at 92%. Expenses 4.6, actual was 4.2. We're at 91.49, so those two are coinciding. Section 8 vouchers, budgeted revenue is 1.3. We're actually at 1.2. Revenue is at 91 or 92%. Expenses 1.3. Actual was 1.2. So we're at 94.8% of our revenue at that, expenses at that point. Wastewater funds was 5.4. Actual revenue is 4.7, so we're at 86.9% of our revenue. And expenses of 4.9 budgeted, we're actually at 4.4, and we're at 90% of our expenses. Any questions, comments?
Questions, comments? Hearing none. Thank you, Kevin.
Oh, I thought.
Oh,
Well, the only thing, it looks like,
yes.
We got to the end of October, it looks like for the year, 2018, we came up almost flat on collecting on this.
On sales tax?
Yes.
Yeah, on sales
Yes, sir.
tax.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better than we projected.
Yes, sir. We have projected a 1.5 decrease from the prior year, and at this point, we're at about 4.4% above where we were
Yeah.
last
good.
year.
Yeah. It just looked like October really kicked us.
Yeah.
Yes, and we have some calls outstanding to Mr. Segura. Some of the numbers just didn't seem right, so we're just looking for some clarification. And I've been checking with Margaret, who's the county supervisor, on a daily basis to see if she's heard back. She was out today, so tomorrow I'll get with her to see. We're waiting to hear back.
Because going to a couple of meetings me and the mayor goes to, they showed that those last couple of months that taxes are up.
Yeah.
And we looked at it and it's.
Well, we're not quite as rosy and sunshiny as some of the other people we go to meetings about. So
Right.
the school board was talking about their increases, the parish was talking about theirs, and ours does seem to be. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Breaking even's great at this point, but it looks like we should be a little high. And October's that 1 month that sticks out there. So.
Yeah, actually, we were at a $60,000 decrease in the month of October from the prior year.
Yeah. And one more question, Mayor.
Sure.
I saw this was at our desk from the school board. We never received this.
I had given that to Maxine. I wasn't sure if y'all had received it in the past.
No.
As far as I know, that's public information. Unless
Okay.
I find out otherwise, I don't have a problem giving it to you.
No, I just didn't know. That's the first time I ever received this from the school board.
That's the breakdown of the expenses and the revenue by municipality.
Yeah, it's nice. I never received it before. Thank you.
Should y'all want me to include that going forward?
That's fine.
Yes.
That's great. The
Yeah.
more we have, the better. Thank you.
The more info, the better. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, I'll see y'all next month.
All right, Madam Clerk, item 9. Indeed.
Items for discussion. Councilmember Natalie Lopez to discuss drainage issues in her district.
Councilwoman Lopez.
Hi, yes, tonight I put on the agenda to discuss, the topic is actually Squirrel Run. It wasn't labeled that on the agenda, but that is what I have requested. So it is regarding Squirrel Run and their drainage. Since before I got elected, there were issues with identification of ditches and coulees in Squirrel Run and what was for whom, what was for the golf course, what was for this city. Previously, again, before I got elected, former Mayor Curry and Perry Segura had entered into an agreement where the city would clean some of the ditches. In that agreement, the ditches were not identified as what was a ditch. If you've been in Squirrel Run, or if you haven't, there are small ditches, there are bigger ditches, there are coulees, there are canals. There's a lot of waterways that are in and around Squirrel Run. And then this last term, before this council got elected, it was brought up again, and the mayor and the past president came out and talked to the subdivision and said that they would do what they can to try to resolve this situation. I've been pretty patient, because we're in the middle of year 2 since we got elected, to give everyone time to decide and say what we're going to do with Squirrel Run, and what we're responsible for, because it's been a very, very gray area. There's never been any definition as to what is what and who is responsible for what. Naturally, Perry Segura says we're responsible for everything, because he built the neighborhood and the golf course, but then that's it. But there's a lot of things that have happened since that golf course was built and that neighborhood was built. People have built houses, they've put up fences and backyards and pools, and it's a very complicated issue. So at this point, I got to a place where I was just pretty much at the end of my rope for waiting, and I asked the mayor and the city attorney to please make a decision and let Squirrel Run know legally what we are willing to do as a city and what we are legally allowed to do as a governmental entity. And so tonight, I'm hoping that those are the answers that we're going to get.
Great. Thank you, Natalie. First thing I'm going to do is turn it over to Jeff Solomon, our city attorney, because we have been meeting on this. We've been talking on this. I've been out there quite a few times. There are some gray areas. There are some things that I wasn't clear on. So I'm gonna let Jeff talk for a minute.
Yeah, I'm the skateboard, ditch, junk tire attorney. So.
And you do a good job.
That's right.
I don't know how that fits in. Maybe it's worse to be the tax guy. I don't know. Yeah, this issue has a long history. The councilwoman raises a number of different issues. One question is, what are the obligations? What do we have to do? Another question is, what can we do? And the third question is, what are we gonna do? Okay, so let me start with the place where that I'm most familiar with and have to do with, and that is the agreements that went on before. In 1994, there was an agreement between the city and various entities out at Squirrel Run about the maintenance of the levee and the internal drainage system. And that's when SR Golf, Spanish Oaks Development, Squirrel Run Investment Group agreed to be responsible for the levees under certain conditions and the internal drainage system. And the city said it was going to fix the base flood elevation at a certain level, which we did. And the base flood elevation has since been superseded by other things. But that agreement has stayed in place. That's the '94 agreement that really didn't deal with drainage within the subdivision. Then in 2010, Mayor Curry entered into a new agreement, which was signed. It looks like at the time the concern was, what can the city do on private property? So the agreement goes through the requirement that we use public funds on private property only for public purposes and for public benefit and so on and so forth. So we have this agreement, which is really kind of a right-of-way agreement where the city is allowed to go in certain areas and do certain things. That agreement, it said, could be terminated at any time by any party, so it's not a permanent obligation. In that agreement, there were some parties, Perry Segura and his wife, who were the successors to some of the entities out there, SR Golf LLC, which is the golf course owner at the time, Spanish Oaks Development, which owned the development that was Squirrel Run subdivision. They agreed to be responsible for levees and the internal drainage system. The city agreed that it would take some action to cut grass and clean drainage ditches located within the Squirrel Run subdivision. Now, there are three things out there. There's the subdivision, which is shown on the subdivision plat done in 1985, which is the streets, the lots, and some spaces between lots in several places. But that's really the subdivision, and that's only that is the subdivision. Behind the subdivision, you have some recreational areas and you have golf course. That's most of the area out there at Squirrel Run. That is not part of the subdivision. So what the city took on in 2010 was to do work within the subdivision, which is a really small, relatively small area. Once you get behind the back lines of those lots, then you're not in the subdivision anymore. That's recreational area, it's golf course or whatever. We have not committed to do maintenance of that area. Under that agreement and the 94 agreement, that was Mr. Segura's and SR Golf and so on and so forth. So I think as far as our obligations are concerned, we have some obligations within the subdivision, and that would include lots, ditches between some of the lots, and so on and so forth. The 94 agreement said the property owners were responsible for removing any obstructions or structures that prohibit work, and the city had discretion as to whether or not the structures prohibited the work. So we undertook limited obligations where we didn't have obstructions that we couldn't get around. And in that agreement, the other parties agreed to hold the city harmless and indemnify us against loss caused by the work that we did within the subdivision. So I think the city's obligations within the Squirrel Run subdivision and within that area are pretty limited and defined by agreement. Now, what is it that we can do? The city can use public money and public resources to deal with drainage issues on private property when it's done for a public purpose and the benefit to the public, and in carrying out our duties is justified, with the money that we spend. So we can make commitments to do things out there. We want to get rights of way if we're going to go on private property, but we have opportunities to do additional work out there if we get the proper rights of way and so on and so forth. I'm not sure what it is the city is going to step forward and do. And one of the questions that you asked in your email that you sent a while back about this meeting was, what is the obligation of the city to the residents of Squirrel Run for drainage? And the answer is, it's the same obligation we have to everybody. That is, we're going to do the best we can with the resources that we have. I know that there's some practical problems with doing work in some of those areas out there because the city just doesn't have the equipment. We don't have the boom trucks, whatever it is that we need to work on. But that's a matter for the council to consider and look at our resources and see what we can do. But we have drainage problems all over, and we need to address these, like we do in other places. So I can't say what the city is willing to do or what we have money to do. If the city decides that it wants to do things out there, I think we can enter into agreements that allow us to do those things. But I don't think we're obligated to take on drainage issues. I don't think we're required to take on drainage issues outside of that subdivision under any agreements that we have right now. And the subdivision area, as I say, is only streets, lots, the ditches between lots and things like that. So I don't think we're responsible for the big canals in the back. I don't think we're responsible for the ditches in the golf course. I'm not saying we could not, under any circumstances, do work back there, but I don't think we're obligated to do that at this point. But it's just a matter of priority and city resources.
Jimmy, can you put that map up? Just.
I'm about to say, where's my map? Y'all
started that.
about to confuse. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Where's the map I asked for? No, I didn't get it.
I brought the original. Well, that's not going to do us any good.
Is that open?
Huh?
It's not open.
Darn it.
It's not open.
All right, well, we got to keep moving.
That's not.
Well, I mean,
What's
if you held up the original map.
Yeah, I brought I didn't think we would need it, but
Yeah.
it's in my folder.
But I mean, I think the thing you can see from a distance,
Coming down.
yeah,
That's the original map that we
See.
were referring to.
yeah, even at a distance, you can tell most of the space on that map is white. And relatively small area is the lots and the streets and some spaces in between. And that's the area we agreed to do work in, and we are permitted to do work in under the 2010 agreement. But all that blank space, that's not the subdivision. Some of that area has been developed into additional subdivisions with different names. But there you go.
Yeah. I was kind of enjoying it back then. Thanks, Max.
But we agreed in 2010 in that kind of short-term agreement to take on, and what's the date of that plat? Is that the 85 plat?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
that's that.
So, yeah, we agreed to take on subdivision lots, streets, ditches that are, you know, adjacent to streets, and some of the spaces between the lots where there's some small, relatively
There's-
small ditches in
There's
between.
actually 3 ditches that I've been here almost 2 years. Leroy and I have been talking about that. There are 3 ditches on this plat that are within the subdivision that I need to clean. We have not cleaned them. Leroy told me it was about 5 years ago. We now have a small
So
little
Hummingbird.
mini excavator, but there's 3 of them on there. 2 of them Leroy says we can clean, and 1 of them he says that they are things that are in the right of way that will prevent us from cleaning them, we think, even with the mini excavator. But there are 3 ditches that he and I have talked about that when I started looking at the plat and realized that they were within the subdivision that we are going to line up and clean. Those are close to houses. There's 3 of them. They are not going to be easy, but we think with the new, they were cleaned with the backhoe once before, but some of the houses weren't that, things have been built since the last time they've been cleaned. But we are going to do that, just to say. But there's 3 of those identified between lots.
And you're talking about these drainage servitudes?
You see where it says those little drainage servitudes? Yes.
Right.
So
but
those
on
3,
this plat, Hummingbird's not even
yeah,
on here.
I know.
Well,
And then the other issue I have is, it was brought to my attention by a resident, I won't say who, but Squirrel Run subdivision has since added things, and it's not Squirrel Run subdivision. Like Hummingbird is not, you get what I'm saying?
Well-
Like Acadian Acres has a bunch of different neighborhoods in it. It's like definitively, legally.
yeah, Hummingbird, if you look on the left side of that map, the portion of Hummingbird that kind of parallels Darby Lane, if you drive down Darby Lane, you look over, it's right there. That's in Squirrel Run subdivision, the original Squirrel Run subdivision. But if you go to the end of the cul-de-sac, you know, there are a bunch of developed lots down in there that are not really part of the original Squirrel Run subdivision. So,
Correct.
We didn't do agreements for those.
we didn't.
Okay.
No, no. Now, if they're city streets, if they're dedicated subdivisions, you know, we have probably certain obligations and certain rights just because they're dedicated streets. And there may be ditches on those plats. But I think the headline is, the big areas outside the subdivision where the big ditches are, we have not committed to maintain. Now, I think with the proper agreements and with the proper funding, we could probably, do more than we're doing now. But, if the first question is what are we obligated to do, there's not a whole lot outside of the original subdivision that we're obligated to do. But that's not the end of the discussion, because it's a question, like a lot of questions in this city, what's the need, what's the budget, what's the priority? It's like a lot of other things.
Yeah, sure. Let's go first.
Legally, can we do that? Outside the subdivision, legally, can we do it?
Outside?
Outside of
Like
this?
the whole ponds and stuff?
Right.
If we're out there primarily for the benefit of the public, and the work that we do is beneficial enough to the public, we can work on private property with permission. Sure, we can do that. Let me see what that last agreement said. The last agreement was done, and there were some things that went on in local government where some questions have been raised about use of public assets on private property. So after all that went on, people were very careful about how they did things. So this agreement has several places in it where they talk about that issue. And what it says is that the project is for a public purpose and it has a benefit that's proportionate to the cost of the work. So I think if we found the right projects to do out there that benefited the public and the cost was proportionate and we got the permissions to do it, we could do more than we're doing now.
And secondly, one more thing, there was a commitment from the parish because of their equipment. They would be a partner in this project way back when. Now, I was there for that. Now, I don't know how it is now, Mayor, but I know the parish president and some of the council members committed, because they do have larger equipment that can do
Some
more
of the
things
who?
than that.
Some of the who?
Council members.
Who?
I'm not gonna say who.
But you can't say some of
Well,
them.
I'm just saying, we were at meetings all standing up, talking about that the parish would be part of it. And I think they should be part of it.
Dan has the floor, just hang on.
But and it was some commitment. I think I mean, as you say, we all pay taxes, and if we can commit to do something and go forward, I think the parish should be part of this plan, because it's not just 1 or 2 ditches. It could open up to much larger areas that will benefit the subdivision.
And the parish, with the same guidelines, the parish could do work in the city. I mean, the city's in the parish. And the parish could partner with us. But that gets to the question not of what we're obligated to do, but what we can do.
Right, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the levy district, excuse me if I can interrupt. The levy district also has some statutory powers to maintain drainage canals within 100 feet of the top bank either side, so on and so forth. So, once they're in existence, they are in existence. Once they have resources, they're part of the mix too. So we got several public bodies that can do things out there.
Natalie? Want the floor?
Okay, so when the neighborhood was built, when the golf course was built, and then they decided to put a neighborhood in it, the drainage for the streets in the neighborhood goes through the neighborhood, but then it runs out, and some of the ways it comes out is through some of the drainage for the golf course. The drainage would have had to be there for the golf course regardless. The neighborhood is in the middle of the golf course. I'm trying to wrap my head around, because I understand that y'all trying to help me, but I feel like y'all are talking in a very, very gray area, and that was not where I wanted to be at tonight. I wanted to be more definitive. Would it be, Jeff, a correct assessment that y'all are talking about if I feel like from the way you're saying it, if we go and do everything in there, all the ponds, all the canals, all the coulees, a lot of that would be for the benefit of the golf course as opposed to for the benefit of the public. So is that what you're saying, or is that what you're not saying? Because I feel like if we are obligated to do stuff that benefits the public, yes, I want to do that. I've been looking for an answer to this problem for 6 years now. Do we clean what you're calling, what is labeled on the map, the servitudes, and then Squirrel Run? We clean from where that pond or that canal, that coulee connects where their neighborhood is draining to, and we clean that portion and they clean the other portion? Because I'm just very confused as to what y'all are saying we can and can't do, and I feel like we need more of a definitive answer. And Mr. Doyle was saying people committed. Well, I know I never made anyone a direct promise because I didn't have a direct answer. So if anyone told anyone that they were definitely going to do something, they were seriously jumping the gun, because we've never had a legal opinion about this that I have ever seen. So if anyone promised anyone anything, that was very presumptuous. Parish government has said that they would work hand in hand with us if we would do something over there, but I have not gathered any evidence of any strong commitment other than, hey, y'all can borrow our long reach. So I feel like we need to be a little bit clearer, because are you saying that we can go and clean everything in Squirrel Run and that's for the benefit of the public, so we can do that, but we're just not going to do it?
No.
What are we saying?
Okay, let me be clear about what we have to do. We have an agreement that we made that either party can end that says within the subdivision, Squirrel Run subdivision, which is just a little map, the mapped up areas with all the little rectangles on it. Mm-hmm. Within that area, we will clean ditches and keep things clear. Outside of the subdivision, we are not responsible. Now, we could take on responsibility, but it would depend on the particular project and whether it served the subdivision or exclusively the golf course or whatever. That's a complicated system out there. When it was first developed, it was engineered so that water moved throughout that area, into ponds, through these little canals, through these little ditches, and the drainage for the subdivision is kind of dependent on drainage through the golf course. So I'm saying for the right project with the right agreements, we can do more than we're doing now. I can't tell you for any particular project that we can justify that. And
just for record's sake, we have no record of what Perry Segura has done to upkeep and maintain this neighborhood, these canals and drains, since the neighborhood was established. We have no records of who did what, when, or how ever since Squirrel Run was formed.
I don't know.
I've never seen any. Have you ever seen any?
No.
So from the time the neighborhood was formed, which was in what?
Mid-'80s?
Mid-'80s. I was born in 84. I'm thinking around there. To now, the city has never gone and cleaned these big canals and big ditches and big ponds.
They've done some in one of the canals. I don't know.
In one of the canals since the middle of the 1980s.
That I know.
Okay.
I don't think that's been our responsibility.
I think that nothing was ever documented. I think it was, and I have no one to blame, but I think it was, I say all the time, preventative maintenance. There was no preventative maintenance. And then to know that this neighborhood was created, and the plat we have, and then Hummingbird was added, and Hummingbird's not on here, and we don't know who's supposed to clean what on Hummingbird, or by Hummingbird, or behind Hummingbird. I mean, it's just pretty ridiculous. And I think it's time that we map out what we're going to do, and we stick to it, and that's that.
I think if you look at the plats for the additional areas, you're going to have dedication of streets, drainage, some servitudes, probably for drainage between lots. servitudes on back lines for utilities and drainage. I think if you take all those plats together, the city has accepted responsibility for those areas, probably the Hummingbird extension and all that, okay? But I think once you get behind the back lines of those lots, we have not committed, we are not legally obligated to go back there and clean those big ditches. Now, I'm not saying we can't. I think under the proper circumstances we could. But it just depends on the particular project and what the priorities of this council are. So, you know, if we could identify the most important drainage projects out there and then decide which ones of those we think it might be appropriate to work on, it's going to be a matter of, you know, what does the council want to budget for that?
Has Mr. Leroy gone out and looked at these servitude areas to see if anything is obstructing those specific areas? Are any of those servitudes obstructed?
You can call them up. 2 of them you can clean, 1 of them you can't.
But which servitude areas? The ones
The small ones
between the
small
lots?
ones between that shown on this black. There's 3 of them.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Leroy.
How y'all doing?
Give us some wisdom.
No, there's only, and I'm not so sure about the one by Hummingbird, just past, before you get to Quail Ridge, if we can still clean it, because I think they built another house pretty close to it. The only one that I know we can clean is by Bert Sest's house. The one closer to Squirrel Run by Roy Holloman's house, it's
Which one can you not?
It's called leeway.
let's see, this is Squirrel Run, so this one here we cannot clean. The houses are too close.
The house by the Leapre's old house.
This is already piped, and this one here,
Behind Pintail.
yeah, I think they built the house pretty close to this one. We can clean on this side of the road to the outlet.
That side by Todd Lemaire's house.
Mm-hmm. And then by Bert over here.
Bert is Mallard Cove.
Yeah.
This one.
Yep, that's it. Miss Frazier used to live right there too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the only one.
That's the only one.
If this house is too close, yeah, we can clean that side of the road, Square Run, but this side we won't be able to. And here I can't do that. I used to be able to mow this with the side boom. I can't do that no more.
And the one by Bert's, what can you clean it with?
I can clean with the mini excavator.
The mini excavator can get back in.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I think that's it. I don't know if the council heard. Just revamp, if you don't mind, so that everybody can hear. You can clean one of them very well. You might be able to clean the second one with the mini excavator, and one the houses are too close.
Correct.
And that's our 3 cuts that fall within the subdivision plan.
That is correct.
And we're gonna line that up and get them done, the ones we can.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And maybe we can clarify one thing, Mayor.
Sure. That's what we're trying to do.
That canal was moved over from Darby Lane. You know, I'm talking about the barn.
Yes, sir.
You remember that canal that was
Yes,
moved?
sir. I was there.
Okay, we did not do that.
No, sir.
Okay.
And that's private.
It's private. Well, no, the parish got a right of way to do that.
Okay.
Well, what do you call that canal?
W14I.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything
Good.
else?
No, sir. I think that's it for now.
All right.
Anybody else have something before I start?
Well, I just.
Yes, ma'am. You got
So
the
in
you got the
sum-
floor. You can keep it if you want it.
So in summary, we can clean 1 out of the 3 servitudes.
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2. But the canal and the ponds and the whatever you want to call it behind Lucas Lepre, them's old house that's not the city's property. Is that what we are saying?
It's not our property. I don't think it's our responsibility. I think under the right circumstances, we can do more than we're doing now if you folks want to allocate the resources and if we can get the landowner agreements to do that. it sounds like the levy district is in discussions about things out there. And, you know, we might want to participate in some of that. I don't know.
But the problem with that is that, yes, there's a levy district, but there's also, it's a huge neighborhood, and they are divided on their feelings about how things should be done. And I understand that, and I appreciate that, because you can't always get this many people to agree on something. So how do you want to get that many people to agree on something? So it's like you're saying, if with the right resources we could do it, and I'm not trying to mock you, although that's what that just sounded like.
It's fine.
Um,
It's true.
But at the end of the day, all I hear is, but we can't get back there. It won't work. It won't work. We can't get back there. We can't get behind Leaper and them's house. You'd have to dredge it. You'd have to do this. You'd have to do that. I'm ready to tell them, yes, this is what we're going to do. No, this is what we're not going to do. I'm tired of them feeling like they're waiting on us to say something. I feel like it's been long enough that we should be able to commit to what we can do. And I'm not going to put that on all of them. I'm not, because at the end of the day, it's not about whether or not we have the money. At the end of the day, the real thing that has been told to me over and over again, it's about the accessibility, the lots, the houses that were built, the fences that were put up, and the fact that none of this stuff has been maintained for years. So I'm going to leave that to the mayor. Sorry to put you in the hot seat, but
no, I'm just waiting to speak.
Yeah, but you know, it's time. They need to know. It's like they need to know what we're willing to do, and I feel like we need to commit. We need to own up to what we're going to own up to. Take it on. Write a contract. That's our baby. This is what we're doing, and make we haven't talked about this, Mayor, but I feel like whatever we're going to form a legal opinion about that is going to be ours. We're going to make a contract about it, and that's going to be ours, and we're going to take care of it from now on, and we're going to say, this is when we're spraying it. We're spraying it 3 times a year. We're doing this amount of times a year, and that's it. And let them know, give them a solid answer as to what we're going to do for them, because it's like everyone else in the neighborhood knows. Well, the city cuts my neutral ground. They don't know. It's like, that's got to be aggravating. It's time. They just know. And we tell them, and we commit to it, and let it be what it's supposed to be. That golf course, I hope it's under new management, and I hope that it flourishes and that it develops and it stays there forever and it improves. I mean, it's a great asset to our community, but at the same time, like we've got to say this is for the golf course and this is for the city, and draw the line and stop pointing the fingers, and people stop making promises that they can't keep. And that's it. That's
all right.
it.
Dustin, Councilman Swear.
I just want to make one comment.
Sure.
No disrespect to anybody in here, but we have drainage issues all over the city. There's a few in my district that the 2 years I've been here, we've been after it for about 2 years now. I've been here 2 years, and I don't have an answer. And it's not. I understand what you're going through. You've been doing it 6 years, but it's one of those things where like you just said, you want to have an answer, you want to have a commitment, you want to tell them now, but at the same time.
But if it's in their neighborhood, if it's our servitude in their neighborhood, we need to tell them this is ours, and we're gonna clean it, and we're done with that. And we're gonna clean it just like we clean the other canals I have behind Texaco Street and wherever. Those are the cities. Those people know when they call me, I'm gonna send someone to get it cut within 3 months. These people, we owe these people the same thing.
I understand.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got something.
All right.
There are a number of canals in the city that are public drainage easements, and the city's taken those on. We have dedicated easements on that property because decisions were made a whole long time ago that work in that area was enough public benefit to justify the cost. That was done 2010 with the areas within the subdivision and the spaces between the lots. We have not made that decision about the stuff on the golf course. And I think whether or not this body is a legislative body allocating resources that the city has, whether or not they decide to do those projects is going to depend on the projects. It's going to depend on the particular projects, the particular work that needs to be done. And I'm not saying that the levy district could agree, or the meetings that they're having are going to result in some magic solution. But there are discussions ongoing about what the priorities are out there and what the engineering is going to require. And I'm saying we ought to participate in that. And then we ought to make, or you guys ought to make the decision about what to do based on what particular projects there are, what the cost is, what the benefit's going to be, so on and so forth. As of now, we're not on the hook for that.
Anybody else? All right, now's my turn. I'm going to tell you, first of all, what we are doing immediately. Okay, we're spending $250,000 on a sewer lift station out there. I'm going to continue to patch the streets as we have been doing. We clean the drains on a regular basis, the street drains. Our cops are patrolling. I find these 3 right-of-ways that Leroy and I talk about when we're prepping for this meeting. I need to go clean those. I know I can clean 2 of them. I'm not sure about the last one. I'm going to go and do those. So those things I can tell you immediately we are doing and we'll continue to do because you are part of our community. You pay taxes and you have the same rights as every other subdivision. I want to provide those services. So that's the first thing, okay? So I am going to do that. And I appreciate every one of you and what you contribute to our community. That's number 1. Now let's talk about possibilities for a second because that's what they are right now. Larry and I went out there. What Larry's position, I talked to Larry today. It's not a parish project. It's a city project. I will loan you a long reach excavator if you choose to do a city project. You don't have any right-of-ways, you don't have any servitudes, you have no way to do it. Get your business straight, decide if you want to do it, if you want to fund it, and I will loan you a long reach excavator. Okay, so that's where the parish sits. It's not a full partnership, it's here's a piece of equipment. As far as for hauling off any sludge that we take out of the canal, as far as for, all of that, that's not his baby. He said it's not a parish project. I'll tell you that I made 2 site visits, well really 3, but we did one that we brought our public works, we brought his public works, we looked at it. I've been a contractor for 30-something years. That's what I do. It is very tight behind some of the houses. We have to move fences. We're worried about damaging the slab when you go by bringing indexes to get the equipment in. We're worried about, I don't know who's a nice swimming pool. I don't know whose swimming pool that is, kind of towards the end. It's hanging out. When you get past the bridge, it starts really getting tricky. I have no way, I'm not a lumberjack. My crews cannot go when you get a little further past the bridge and then there's nothing but trees lining that to the pumps. I don't have a way to get the equipment in. The long reach won't swing. I don't have a barge. When Mr. Perry was out there, he said you can dump the spall right here. Some of it, not all of it, because when you figure the quantity you'd be removing, you don't have a place to put it. The sludge that he said you could just throw on the bank right here. I've been a contractor a long time. You know what it's going to do? There's no bulkhead. There's nothing. You go right back in the canal. So I could actually have a guy out there for 2 or 3 months screwing around in the same 200 yards. It's not feasible to do that. So that doesn't help. When I talk about getting dump trucks, well, we got to replate, where the city is not where it should be, and some maintenance has not been done on many things here. I got to weld plates in the bottom of all of our dump trucks because they couldn't take that sludge. I'm going to leave half of it in the road because I got so many holes in the bottom of my dump trucks. But let's just say that our common sense, I get some steel plate, we fix our dump trucks. We have 3 dump trucks, 4 dump trucks tops, probably 3. So if I got 3 dump trucks, do you know how long it would take the city to haul 1 dump truck at a time? Because I do have to maintain and do the other things that the city has to do. I have many areas to do work, and those dump trucks are rolling constantly, hauling limestone, hauling debris. So I got 3 dump trucks. You take the calculation of 1 long reach that I get sometimes and 3 dump trucks and start figuring how many years it would take me to clean that. It's not feasible. We don't have that kind of equipment. We don't have the resources to throw at that. But I'm not saying that a partnership is not a possibility. I'm not saying no to anything. I'm kind of like, I'll have to listen to my city attorney who says this is not your responsibility right now. And it's not. These are the items you have to concentrate on. I work with a budget that my council approves because they are budgetary. So it's clear to me what we have to do right now. The things that I just mentioned that I'm going to do, those things will continue. They're budgeted and I can do them. Does that mean that I want to be completely closed-minded and I talk about possibilities? No, that's not me. Do I think that you've just formed, we just appointed the levy district, 3 months ago? You probably had 3 or 4 meetings. I think that y'all are coming up with a game plan. Our question as a contractor, you've got a canal. The pumps have never starved for water. So if the pumps haven't starved for water, is cleaning that canal the top priority? Because basically I make it deeper. Guess what? It can't flow till the pumps are on. You're not going to move any more water by cleaning that canal, because it's sitting there. It can only go through the flow of the pumps. You only got so much pump, so much pipe to move water. So go clean the canal. Is that some top priority? I don't know that it is, because if we clean it, we take a huge risk of expense. We take the liability. We got to figure out where to put the sludge, and we clean the canal. You're not going to drain any better unless you plan on adding more pumps, because you're not going to move any more water. So to me, it's like sometimes I feel, and look, I know y'all are frustrated. Y'all have been living with a whole lot of conditions and a whole lot of unknown for a long time. I've been here not even 2 years yet. I'm frustrated with it already. I mean, I have council people who, Natalie represents that area. Natalie calls me quite often on this. She's not messing around. She would like to get an answer and like to be able to say, this is definitively what we do and what we don't do. I think we did that tonight. But I don't want to close the door on any other possibility. But I think it's going to take time, and you're going to come back as a levy district and say, okay, would you partner on this project? I'm going to look. I have to run this like a business. I'm going to look at the risk. I'm going to look at the liability I face. I'm going to look and see if it's for the greater public good. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to work on private property because one person, a property owner, benefits. Is it good for the public, for all of you as a whole? And can I afford it? Then I got to come back to this council, because they control the money, and say, okay, this is a project. You're going to fall in line with a whole lot of other canals and a whole lot of other districts and a whole lot of other projects. That's just the reality of it. But I don't want to close the door on it. I think that we've been clear on what we can do tonight. I think that when you come back with possibilities, and we might tell you no. Again, we might tell you, yeah, we might be able to partner. I can go back to the parish. The parish and I do trade equipment back and forth. He has committed a long reach excavator. At this point, that's all he's committed. And I don't know for how long. He's got a huge parish. He doesn't have that many long reach excavators. I think we get it. Are we talking about we get it for a week? We get it for 2 weeks? Again, is he sending me some dump trucks too? And it's not a parish project. He's probably not going to be willing to do that. So now I got to figure out how we haul that sludge and where we put it. So I think we have to take clearly, this is what we're going to do now. And the new thing I've added is that we're going to go clean those 2 and possibly 3, if we can figure out a way to do it, that are on that map that it is my responsibility to clean. I'm going to give you every service I give every other subdivision. But I want to keep an open mind, and I want to be able to communicate on what y'all come up with as the top priority. But I just ask you to think about it, because we focused on one thing, those canals. Maybe that's not the answer. I mean, that might not be the top priority. That's what we're all thinking. We're going to look at it. It's the trickiest engineering project. If we had a suction barge, no problem. That's the way to do it. You still got to figure out where you're going to put it. But that's the way to do it where you have all those trees. I've seen them at the point, use a little mini excavator, set on a barge. That works too. But you got to have a place to put the sludge. And that might not even be our top priority. We're all focused on that one thing. I think that after you all come up with a game plan, that might not even be the most important thing. Because you ain't moving any more water till you get some more pumps. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's the discussions we've had. I do want to keep an open door. I think we've been clear on this is what we will do for now, so that you have an answer. But, I would like to continue the conversation. I mean, we've done more partnerships since I've been here than had been done for this community in a long time. So I want to leave the door open. But to say I'm definitely going to go do this or that tonight, no, we can't do that, because I don't even think y'all know what y'all want us to do. Kind of where I'm at. I hope that helps. Anybody else? Well, that ends a long, good, and probably overdue discussion. Thank y'all for coming. I don't even know where we at.
9B.
9B. Okay. Madam Clerk, 9B.
David Broussard to discuss right turn lanes at the intersection of Atmodal and Lewis Street and Center Street in Atmodal.
Mr. Broussard, you have the floor.
The first intersection of Lewis and Atmodal is in need of right turn lanes. Lewis Street is one of the main roads carrying traffic from the Iberia to the Port of Iberia and the future I-49. Plans to 4-lane Lewis Street south of Atmodal have been in the works for some time. This improvement is necessary to keep traffic both moving efficiently and safely. A briefing of the current status of the project to 4-lane Lewis Street south of Atmodal is needed. The second intersection is at Amador and Louisiana State 14 Center Street. A right turn lane for turns to Iberia and to I-49 could help improve traffic flow more efficiently. The approach ends both at Louisiana State 14 Center Street and Amador are presently state 4-lane highways. Please support a resolution to the state to conduct a study to install right turn lanes at above locations. If not, we cover Jefferson Terrace too. You know, that's another one we have too. But the deal is we need help to get turning lanes, get the right turn people on the turning lane, get them out the regular flow of traffic. It will flow better and get them. And we put a yield sign too at the end of the turning lane. Yield like we have at Parkview and Lewis. It works so smoothly. At Lewis and McDonald's right there, it worked yield. So if I can get a resolution to send to the state to come have a study done of putting some right turn lanes, I think it'd be beneficial to the citizens of Iberia to help our flow of traffic. Since it's state roads, we're asking the state to come down and put these turning lanes. So that's my belief on my turning lane issue.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Yes, sir.
I think the parish have right now, they have that TIF district that comes up to where the city limits are. And I think they have the
On
already
Lewis?
on
And they're
Lewis,
working on that.
and they
Yes,
work.
sir.
They already have the plan for the 4-lane. And at one time, they wanted us to give up to some part on Lewis to incorporate their TIF district. You remember, Mayor?
I do.
For them to be able, because right now they have the plan. They did the study. It's there to bring it all the way through, like where Gasha Sands clothing store is, or whatever you want to call it. They already have that done. They don't need no study. It's done. They're looking for the funding to do it. But they do have TIF monies already set aside, and you can check with the parish up to the city limits. But they wanted to incorporate those stores that Rouse's and that was.
And if you remember, I agreed they could do it, but they weren't coming into town and tiffing our businesses because we weren't getting the benefit.
Right.
So we agreed that they could well come in and fix that intersection if they'd like to, but that we were not allowing them to come in and tiff our business.
But that plan is there.
The plan is there to do the work.
It's drawn. They got fundings put aside already to the parish.
They do.
For that project.
I hope we have a right turn lane.
Well, yeah, it could be all turning lane, but that's done. So I have no problem supporting it, but I think it's going to be more of a, we don't need it. Maybe we want to send a resolution or something to the parish to maybe come and give us their input of where they at on this project, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think we have two resolutions that we would need to do. One, to just have the parish update us on their project, and the second one, these other intersections that you would like turning lanes, we do a resolution, send it to DOTD, run it up the flagpole, and see what happens.
I appreciate it. That's what I would like to do.
Okay.
Those other ones.
Okay, well,
Because
let's
I knew
finish
that
our
one was coming
discussion.
down on Lewis Street. I knew that was coming down. But, you know, we need the other ones committed.
Anybody else have any discussion on this item? So, Mr. Broussard, you'd like to make a resolution to do two different,
Yeah, the ones on Amador turning right on Lewis, and Amador turning right by Burger King, and the other side too turning right. Same, all the intersections, the right lanes on Amador to turn right. Lanes, right turn lanes.
Okay.
Installed on Amador.
Just write the letter. I'll
Okay.
make an opinion.
okay. So you, so that's a motion?
Are we sending one to the parish, Mr. Broussard?
Yeah, well, that'll be a separate
Parish.
motion. Let's
Okay.
do two different motions. So your
To the
first
state.
motion is to send these letters to the state.
Yep.
All right.
Second.
You got a second? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, let's vote on machine. Well, wait, it's a discussion item. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, Mr. Broussard, I'll draw up the letter and we'll bring it to the next meeting. I'm sorry, I was getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Self-correction. All right. Great, Mr. Broussard. And Madam Clerk, 9C.
David Broussard to discuss the issue of tires being dumped around the city, in particular on Walton Street and St. Mary Street.
Broussard, you have the floor.
Discarded tires on empty lots. There's a problem caused by discarded vehicle tires dumped on empty lots in District 3, if not all over the city. This is causing at least two issues. First is that it causes an unsightly appearance, and second, the tires may help cause a probable health risk. Rainwater collected in these tires that could serve as a place for mosquitoes to breed and possibly carry West Nile virus. We have certain kids in this neighborhood over there that want to put the tires in the middle of the road. I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, 10 tires in the middle of the road. How the fire trucks are going to get to a fire? You have to move all the tires? They have 30 tires on the side of a road right now on St. Mary Street. Presently, the city and garden trash collectors can pick up a total of 5 tires if the tires are in front of an occupied residence. 3 tires.
Four tires.
4 tires, all right, 4 tires.
4
I was
tires
close.
once a year.
Yeah, okay, get that
Per
straight.
resident.
However, there are no regulations for picking up tires or other trash on empty lots. Not only this may be a safety issue, but this could be a health issue. The city needs to pass a regulation for collecting tires on empty lots. We all have empty lots down the street from your house. We want a whole pile of trash or tires to be dumped there and we're never gonna move them for a year or 2 years? We don't know, there's no regulation saying, we look at the ones on St. Mary Street for 30 tires. I've been talking 3 weeks to try to get them moved. Now we have DEQ coming down to see what they can do. Because we have no regulation to touch a tire or to move it because it's in front of an empty lot. And then they're putting the tires in the middle of the road for a fire safety issue for our fire trucks or our police trying to get to back another block from there. But I'm we shouldn't be right here at this time. We shouldn't be here because we have a clean city. We keep it clean, and this is not right when we can't move something that's on an empty lot because we can't move it. There's got to be a resolution that we can move stuff and get rid of it. I'm sorry I got emotional. I've been fighting this. I have neighbors. 10 neighbors a week call me up. What are we going to do with our dump site? So we need to do something, Mayor, because I'm getting calls. And I don't want to get a call another 3 o'clock in the morning to go move 10 tires out the road. And they're blocking the fire truck and the police. So we need to do something. I shouldn't be here talking this at all. I think we should have a situation that should have been settled by now. What can we do with this trash?
Okay. Our city attorney had his hand up. If you don't mind, I'll call on Jeff first.
Yeah, this information here, and I've got a little more, is excellent stuff, and I didn't do it. Maxine did that.
Yep.
So she's the one who got on this and has these different solutions for different situations. Gordon's can pick up tires at residences. The city can pick up tires on neutral grounds.
Is it a neutral ground?
And, you know, if it's in the street, I think we can pick up a tire in the street. If we know who's doing it, that's littering, you know, that can be ticketed. Waste tires, residents, instead of dumping them, they can drop them off at a local tire shop and pay for disposal. There's a DEQ process for complaints. And then the last thing is, we do have a junk ordinance, you know, whether it's tires or it's old appliances or whatever it is, we can hold the landowner, even if it's an empty lot, responsible for that property.
No, this has been in a neutral ground for 30 tires, lined up about 20 feet long of tires in the neutral ground right on the side of the road for the last 3 weeks. Now, you said neutral ground, we can do something with them. We have to put them somewhere. They're in Publix Way. They have 3 houses living on each side. They tired of looking at that dump.
Well, the city has the power, you know, it has the authority to pick up tires on neutral grounds. Now, it has to dispose of those, so that's going to be an expense to the city because we got to file the reports, we got to pay the fees, we got to do all that stuff. But if it's on the neutral ground, we have a way to get them off the neutral ground and get them out of there.
Let's do it.
How much does it cost to dispose of the tire?
All depends on the size.
And we got
$250 a tire.
And we got 30 tires.
30 at least.
In that one spot.
Yeah.
They are tires all over. So if we send Public Works to pick, let me just give you a rundown. If we send Public Works to pick up the tires, First of all, he's got to pick them up, so we're spending the manpower and the time on that. Next of all, we bring them to Public Works. We have a storage issue. They have to be covered. So we'd have to have an area to store them that were covered to meet the DEQ requirements. And then we would have to line up them to pick them up, and we have to pay per tire to pick them up.
And then file reports.
And file reports. And do paperwork, because tires are very
Bring 'em to a
regulated.
tire place.
They gonna charge you.
They're going to charge us.
How much is tire?
$2.50 a tire.
$2.50 a tire, and some of them $5 because on a bigger tire it's $5. A car tire is $2.50. A truck tire is up to $5.
Right.
Okay, can we just do like a tire sweep, and then from now on, if you see someone dumping tires, get the plate and call the police department?
We're trying that. We put a new dumping sign. We picked up the tires and put a new dumping sign that day. The next day they put 30 tires all around the dumping sign.
Oh,
That didn't help at all.
No, I'm picking.
It didn't help.
Mayor,
30 more
yes,
the
sir.
next day.
That has to be a commercial person doing that.
Yeah, with
No
the
one
amount
has
of-
that many tires.
I agree, and we have a
Right.
police
I'm
department,
sorry.
and we're, you know.
I'm not saying what I would do, but they have to have someone in the area that's doing that at night
Yeah.
instead of them getting rid of it.
Yeah.
It should
Oh,
be
They don't want to pay
pretty
their fee.
simple.
Yeah.
Yes, and they might be, and putting the money in their pocket and going dump the tire.
Oh, yeah.
You're right about that.
I mean, but I think, what I agree, the police department that we have now, I think we can catch them.
Right,
And
that's
if
what I'm
we
saying.
Catch them.
Do a city tire sweep, put your tire out
Because this is
day
not
out
a
and
citizen doing it. It's someone that has a business is doing it.
Yeah. Well,
I really believe that,
the
Mr.
residents
Broussard.
need relief.
And have the city police go to all the places in town that do tires and drop off a flyer saying we're watching. Like, hello.
Yeah.
They go patrol anyway. Have them drop off a flyer.
But the residents in that area need
I mean,
relief.
or like a ordinance, a
Pick
copy
up
of the
these tires.
flyer with a copy of the ordinance. You know what I'm saying? But letting them know, like, we've been having this problem and we suspect it's a business. So this is just warning. Have them drop off a flyer to each of the places. They're patrolling every day anyway, and they can get that done in a week.
The used car place.
Let them know, like, we know it's one of y'all. We're gonna get you.
And the office could send the flyers out.
Yeah.
Instead of the police
all we
department.
had.
But I mean, I think a hand delivery is very
Got a couple
friendly.
of them on Hopkins Street. They got a couple
Yeah.
of them.
And we, you know, we have a
I'm
number
just
to call.
saying,
We can
sometimes
call.
that's all it takes
You
is
can
someone
turn
letting
into
them
the,
know.
you know, the DEQ.
We know.
Okay.
In the meantime,
Sure.
it's on the it's on the neutral ground, like he mentioned.
At least the tire shop.
Can we get them picked up this round?
If they're on the neutral ground.
They're on the neutral ground.
You know they're not going
You know,
Right next to the road.
I love you, but you don't determine what the neutral ground is.
Well,
we had one issue that
I
where
guarantee
they
you.
were was not the neutral ground.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
look, they on the half. Some of them on the road. That's how close they are.
Okay.
And I moved them as far as I
All right,
could.
well, we're gonna have to talk
It's
about
gotta
the
be
money to
neutral.
do that, but
Yeah.
that'll come.
So I need it
let's see
as
who had
soon
their
as
hand
we
up.
can.
Sharon, you been waiting?
Yes, sir.
Well, knock it out. Yes, ma'am.
I did see this on the agenda, so I took it upon myself and called the DEQ. Got a chance to speak with an agent, and the other thing is to, if residents or anyone see anyone dumping tires anywhere on private property or doing something they don't have any business doing with tires, throwing them on in people's yard, there's a, if you go to DEQ's website, it's complaint driven, and all you have to do is submit that. That's one way of doing it, and they'll just basically ask for your name and a contact information, and they will call you back. Another way to handle that, they do have a spot line where if you notice someone committing this crime, because it is a crime, dumping is a crime, to call the 1-888-763-5424. Residents alike or anyone else can call this number and someone will respond. Another thing is, Mr. Broussard, you spoke about people just dumping tires and on property in the street and that type of stuff. Any of your neighbors, are they taking down license plates, descriptions, time and location, and giving it and calling our NIPD, so that way that, you know, they have prior knowledge of what's going on, where it's taking place? That's another way for the community to help out, because government should be always the last result. I think as neighbors, you know, we want to. I'm sorry. Oh. Okay.
That should be the paper. That should be the quote in the paper.
Hit that, Corey. Make sure you get that, Corey. No, I'm just kidding. Government should be the last resort, and I understand that it's a problem in a sore, it's a sight for sore eyes for your neighbors. I wouldn't want it next to my yard, to be honest with you, and looking at that every day. I probably would go pick them up myself. But, okay, so maybe you can inform your constituents to get license plates, descriptions, times, locations. That's another form of neighborhood policing, and then turn that into the NIPD. I wasn't sure if we had tires on the books, but it is under the junk law and those type of violations. And if not, we can the NIPD can enforce, if I'm not wrong, state laws. And stuff like that. So the other thing is, I asked the DEQ agent, why would you have 20 to 30 tires on a lot? My guess, it can be a small business owner, a negligent small business owner doing that. I would hate to say that, because I love all the business owners in the city of New Iberia, but somebody's doing them, and I know if we change a flat tire in a car, we don't have 30 tires to dump someplace. So he said, in the case of New Orleans, there was a case where what happens is small businesses or tire businesses ordered a truckload of used tires, and maybe about 500 of them, and out of that 500 of them, 50 to 100 of them is actually marketable and able to be sold. The rest of them, they go and dump. And with that being said, that might be why we're seeing an influctuation of tires. I did check the vicinity, St. Mary Street and Walton Street. Also too, it's going down St. Jude, and miraculously, there's 10 tires in my district at the road, and things like that. So, another way for disposal, you said, what, Mayor? What can we do?
You can put 4 at a time out in front of your residence.
Per resident per year.
You can bring them to a tire place and pay the fee yourself, which is $2.50
And when you
a
say tire place, you mean like a tire business?
A tire business. You can go to a tire business and bring them for $2.50 a piece, which is a cheap way to get rid of them if you don't have 1,000 of them. You can call the 1-800 number and this 225 number that we handed out tonight and report the tires, especially if it's repeat offenses, and they have an investigative wing. So those are the things we thought of immediately. This council could do a budget amendment, and we could run around and pick tires up. But, it can't come out of Mr. Leroy's present budget, and you got to decide that that's what you want to spend money on. We could not do that. The other choices, we could go. It costs money to do that. It takes Jimmy's time. It takes staff time. You got to write letters. You got to do certain things. But you could use our existing junk ordinance. Take some of the city attorney's time. But all of that adds up. You start costing what we spending per tire. It's way cheaper to spend $250 than to pay all of these entities to, send in the NIPD, send in this, send in that. When you do all of that, the cheapest route might be to find a cooperative tire company and say, we're gonna pay the $250.
Well, another thing is, it doesn't take, excuse me, I'm sorry, baby.
Yeah, hang on, who had the floor?
I'm sorry.
Okay, excuse me.
Okay. Another thing too, within that vicinity block of St. Mary and Walton Street, there's only so many tire places. Okay, I can count them on my finger, and but I'm not gonna say who they are.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, can we just draw up a letter, and with the city ordinance, it only take a little while, and just go and present that. And if our NIPD is busy, maybe Mr. Broussard himself can go and present that as a council person. I'm just trying to think of ways to save money and at the same time enforce, and just give them kindly a letter, and also the ordinance that with that letter. That's just a way. Instead of just leaving it like that.
I've been waiting for such a thing to go do. I didn't want to get out of order and go approach them in a mean way.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Broussard, you can bring the ordinance, I mean, a copy of the ordinance, go and ask politely to speak to the business owner, and just
And the
show
fine.
them. Sorry?
And the fine, yeah.
And the fine, you know, and just present it, say that you're having a problem in your district. So,
Hillary can send them on to all of
I plan on doing the same thing.
Yeah, not accusing
Be better if we get a letter from the city.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
and my office could, just like we do with the grass,
And I hate
we've
to
done
add
these.
some
Oh, no.
more,
We've
on
done
Miss
these.
Maxine or Miss Sandra, because they,
Or Hillary.
or Miss Hillary, because they do enough as it is already.
Well, Hillary sends out a letter, as you know, if you see somebody throwing grass in the road, you call up and we send a letter.
And we can
So
draft one similar.
we would be the least accusatory of all of our existing businesses if a letter came from my
Absolutely.
office that basically hit all the tire places.
And can we include the spot line number on that?
Yes, we
if-
can, we can. So why don't we start with that? If we start with
That's
that,
a start.
we could send a letter to every tire place and,
Mr.
you know.
Broussard, do you agree?
Yes, ma'am. I hear a letter.
No, you wasn't
I'm gonna
listening.
go around.
He wasn't listening.
You can do that now.
Whenever you
All right,
can.
any further? Hang on, y'all.
That's
Any
the only
further
thing we get out of
discussion?
this, I think it's a letter.
Okay, any further
Well, I mean,
discussion?
Mr. Broussard, it is something, and it's a way of warning, you know, anyone that's violating our ordinances to, you know, there are ordinances on the books. Now, my next question, for the NIPD, what can they enforce? Because from my understanding, they can enforce something, or and if not that, state laws. So what can they do?
If you catch somebody, if we catch somebody dumping tires.
So an
yeah, then-
investigation is basically what
Yeah,
you're saying,
yeah.
if need be.
Right, certainly.
Not trying to put more work on you, Chief, I apologize. I'm just
No, but
trying to
that can be done.
touch
I mean,
all
that's police work,
buttons.
you know? If you're trespassing and you're dumping and you're littering and tires have higher fines probably, yeah, that can be done. Got to catch them, but,
And again, for the residents, 188-763-5424. DEQ.
good.
If these current
Thank you.
tires are.
Are you done?
Finished. If these current tires are in
Broussard?
the, if they're in the median, if these current tires are in the median, we'll be talking about, they'll be picked up soon.
If they're in the
Thank
median.
you. All right.
We can pick up those
I
tires.
appreciate
If they're in the median. We'll have to spend money on them because Public Works will, I want you to know that you just spent some money.
I know, but it's.
That has
the
not been
citizen-
budgeted, so we'll be coming back to you for budget amendments.
Citizens need their help along that. It's a site, unsightly site. The citizens won't see them.
Okay, who hasn't spoke yet then? Okay.
We just agreed that the city would send a letter to
Yes,
those businesses who are frequent in the tire business.
all tire businesses, yes.
And for those people who live near the site where you're talking about, Mr. Broussard, or if you see some tires in a vacant lot, the adjoining properties, if there's somebody there, maybe you need to speak to them to get them to see who's doing it and not.
Report it.
Yes, and at least report, you know, who's doing it, a license plate or something, so that our police department can take care of that. Otherwise, we just gonna have some more tires in that same spot again, if nobody says anything about it.
Correct.
So we asking our community to be a part of this. You know, if you see somebody dumping tires, and if you know them, you can always call anonymously to the police department and tell them about it.
Thank you. Bro, think you've been waiting to speak?
I don't have any tire places in my district. They got 3 of them in the area. I've never seen piles of tires, but I see like 1 tire, 2 tires. And then gas tanks too, but that's not on the agenda. I ain't going there. Gas tanks too. I ain't about to prolong this. But I will remind my constituents, 4 tires per household. 4 tires per household per year.
And so what do, thank you, Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry, are you finished?
I'm finished.
I apologize. What do we do if we have 10 tires at the road on St. Jude.
Split them.
Split them and put them in 2.5 houses.
To our citizens, put 4 tires in front of your house and get your neighbor to put 4. Now we picked up 8 tires.
I didn't want to say that. That's what I was
I didn't want to
saying.
say that either.
We've been talking
But
about
the mayor
it.
said it's in the
It's in the
Yeah, they will
contract.
do that once
And
a year.
I called gardens. They don't have to match.
Yeah.
The tires don't have to match. They said it. I asked them. They don't have to match.
Yeah. So, you got some tires in your neighborhood,
Tax-
roll them to the street, 4 at a time.
Little tax, little
Once per house.
incentive for our taxpayers.
Yes,
All
I
right.
got one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if the tires are on neutral ground or the right of way, that's the city property, right?
It is a city property.
So
yes.
that means if I happen to be riding down somewhere, I could split it on 4 sections if I want to.
No, I don't think you should. You
Oh,
should
okay,
go and
okay.
put that in front of somebody's house. No, ma'am. That idea is overruled.
I am just joking.
Councilman Ledbetter's got the neighbors watching.
That's right. Yeah. Any further
And they should
discussion
be
on
writing
this?
stuff down. That's
Any
right.
further discussion on this? All right, thank y'all. Good discussion. And now we move on to item 10. I'll start with Natalie. Councilman's remarks.
I may or may not be at the next city council meeting because I'm having sinus surgery. So if I'm not here, it's because I'm not up to it. If I am here, it's because I'm good.
Thank you. Councilman Lewis?
Well, in my remarks, I'm going to keep you in my prayers for your sinus surgery if you're not here. And also, I'd like to congratulate the football teams that made the playoffs. I think Westgate made it and Nish. I'm not sure about Nish. I know for sure Westgate made it. And congratulations on the Emma Wakefield plaque in the city.
Really nice.
Really nice. Great work by Dr. Hayes. And you know, I heard it was a great event. I had to work on Saturday, but definitely supporting what that African American Historical Society is doing. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Broussard.
Veterans Day, Sunday, 6 o'clock. He's Bullion Plaza, Mayor. He's Bullion Plaza. Anybody can show up. It's a very big day for our veterans. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Well, we have one sad thing that we got a restaurant downtown will be closing this week on Main Street, Plymouth Times.
Wow.
Yep. And I want to thank the people for at least trying. They came from out of town, put money in this community, and it just didn't work out for them. So that was pretty sad to see because I thought it was a nice place, good atmosphere. And second thing, Mayor, I had some people question me about we can do in City Park because at night it's getting dark early, and they find it's really, really dark to walk at night. I don't walk, so I wouldn't know. But maybe I know you exercise, Mayor. You might want to go see if there's something we can do. I don't know if it's the trees in the way or the lights that we have there, but there's some dark spots, and they feel kind of threatened and walking at night.
All right, well, we can go and get some public works to do a little survey. We can get the police department to check the lights.
night.
And we've actually been talking about that. They've started an initiative to do that around town, checking all the street lights. Remember, we pay $500,000 a year to the utility company whether they're on or not.
Yep.
So we are beginning to survey all the lights, but we can add the park to that.
But, you know,
'Cause it could well be that just some of them are out.
And maybe, Mayor, there's some different type of lights Clico can put to have a little different span to go a little farther than what
Okay.
we have it there now.
We can look into it.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm gonna
Get it.
pass tonight.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a couple. Let's see, November the 14th, Star Pilgrim Baptist Church, near the rear end of the church, there's going to be a feed-a-thon hosted by the new chapter Push Coalition, and the guest speaker is Reverend Donald Wright, and the time begins at 6 p.m. I want to congratulate, as Mr. Lewis said, the football teams all around the parish on their great efforts, and congratulations to all homecoming queens that made the court. And we really, our community, I think, really enjoyed the parades. There were many parades this month, it looked like. So I think our community really came together and enjoyed. I seen different people each time. Also, which I don't usually do, and I'm always calling him and calling him and calling him. He might be tired of me, but I just want to thank Mr. Jimmy tonight because where is he? There you go, Mr. Jimmy. And you know, I might not be his favorite person and all, but I just want to thank Mr. Jimmy for his efforts, also the city attorney, the mayor, and this council. The situation on East Persian Street finally got cleaned up, and you know, I was surprised on how things work, because the actual resident or former resident actually called me and thanked me and everyone that was involved on getting this done. I was surprised about that. So you're welcome on that. And also the neighborhood watch for District 5, which is my district, and citywide. We're including everyone. November the 15th, 2018. The time is 6 p.m. and the location is 315 Week Street. And our guest speaker is the one and only, the Honorable Mayor Freddie DeCourt. And he's going to be talking about our economic development, which we've done so far under this new administration, maybe a little bit about the crime stats. And also, I want to encourage everyone to come out, because as you know, I love our small local businesses, to keep our local dollars here. So our featured local business is Hope Spa, which is a certified Aveda spa, and they'll be providing a half-hour massage gift certificate for one lucky, well, blessed person that's blessed enough to receive that. It is a free raffle at the door, and I will be there, of course. I'm asking all constituents to come out, bring your concerns, bring your ideas, bring your challenges, but also try to bring some solutions to the table. And we'll have free small bites and to be served. And I want to thank all our neighborhood watch captains, because this is our last meeting, quarterly meeting of the year, for all that they've done and how they keep me in the loop on everything that's going on the streets. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, I got one announcement. Your neighborhood watch is on the 15th?
On the 15th.
I don't want to rain on your parade.
You'd never rain on my parade.
Pancake Kiwanis Pancake Supper is that night, so maybe after the neighborhood watch. I believe it starts at like 5 o'clock.
Oh, I'm going to get my pancakes.
But it goes until, they have Harvey the Rabbit.
Yeah.
It's great for kids.
Yes.
It's an annual event. It's been going on for many, many years. It's a long day, but it's also a good day. And it helps, you know, kids throughout the community in Iberia. So I would appreciate if some people showed up for that. I know they will. So again, it's on the 15th. It's $7 a plate, and that's it.
Oh, I got one more thing.
You're done. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate that. The Louisiana Sugarcane Festival building on Sunday, that was truly something to enjoy. I seen everybody over there. It was something on a good Sunday afternoon to enjoy with your entire family. All those that are responsible for putting that on Sunday, I really want to thank you, because I mean, it was just something great to go to after church and enjoy those theatrical things. I'm talking about beneath the balconies. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Jeff, you got any more? No. Okay.
I
need a motion to adjourn, but don't go anywhere.
Motion.
More meetings.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. We're adjourned. We got to do our TIF meetings.